When Ebuka, a disfigured street beggar in Lagos, saves Amarachi, the daughter of billionaire oil tycoon Chief Nnamdi Okafor, from a robbery, their worlds collide in ways no one expected. A secret affair blooms, and Amarachi becomes pregnant. When her father discovers the truth, he unleashes a storm that threatens Ebuka's life. But a shocking DNA test later reveals that Ebuka is actually the long-lost son of Chief Nnamdi's late business partner. Suddenly, the beggar becomes an heir, and everything turns upside down. The sun was sinking over the crowded city of Lagos, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and gold. Along the busy Eco Bridge, people hurried past without sparing a glance at the man sitting quietly by the roadside, a torn mat spread before him. His name was Ebuka, a beggar with a face the world had taught to hide. His left cheek bore a deep scar that ran from the corner of his mouth to his ear, the aftermath of a fire accident from his childhood. The city saw him as nothing more than a nuisance, another broken piece in the puzzle of poverty. But behind those weary eyes lived a heart still capable of kindness, and a soul still clinging to hope. Every day, Ebuka begged not just for coins, but for dignity. Children sometimes threw pebbles at him, calling him names. Some adults crossed the street at the sight of him. Yet he never responded with anger. He had learned long ago that bitterness would only make the wound deeper. He survived on the few naira notes kind strangers offered and the bread he bought from Mama Ibeji's kiosk. His nights were long, filled with the noise of passing cars and the distant laughter of people who never knew what it felt like to be invisible. That evening, as the city began to glow with streetlights, a black Range Rover stopped near the bridge. From it stepped a young woman, her skin glowing like polished bronze, her long braids swinging behind her. Amarachi Okafor, the only daughter of billionaire oil tycoon Chief Nnamdi Okafor, had a heart too restless for the golden cage she lived in. She had stopped by the bridge on her way home from a charity outreach, hoping to give some food to the poor, unaware that fate was about to tie her destiny to the man everyone called the scarred beggar. Suddenly, a group of armed robbers appeared from the shadows, surrounding her car. Amarachi screamed as one of them grabbed her handbag. Ebuka, without thinking, sprang up from his mat. Despite his frail body, he lunged at the attacker, taking a blow to the head but managing to push Amarachi into her car and lock the door. The robbers fled when people began to gather. As Amarachi's driver returned, she looked down at Ebuka, lying on the pavement with blood trickling from his forehead. In that moment, something deep inside her shifted, pity mixed with awe. That night, as Ebuka drifted into unconsciousness, Amarachi made a silent promise. She would find this man again. Little did she know, the decision would change both their lives forever. 2 days after the robbery, Amarachi couldn't shake off the image of the scarred beggar who had risked his life for her. She had asked her driver, Tund, about him, but Tund only shrugged. "Madam, those beggars disappear fast. Maybe he's gone to another bridge." Yet Amarachi's heart wouldn't rest. She couldn't explain why she cared, but something about the way he had looked at her before fainting, half in pain, half in peace, haunted her. It was the look of a man who had nothing, yet gave everything. Meanwhile, Ebuka lay weak under a makeshift shelter beneath the bridge. His head still throbbed from the attack, but he was alive. He remembered the woman's frightened face and how her perfume had lingered even after she drove off. For the first time in years, someone had looked at him not with disgust but with gratitude. That single moment had rekindled something long buried, his sense of worth. 3 days later, Amarachi returned. This time, she came without her driver, dressed simply in jeans and a white blouse, her face hidden behind a pair of sunglasses. The city was noisy as ever, hawkers shouting, Danfo buses honking, but her eyes scanned every corner until she saw him. Ebuka was sitting quietly, his bandaged head bowed, a small Bible open in his lap. When she approached, he looked up, startled. "You came back?" he stammered, unsure if he was dreaming. "Yes," Amarachi said softly, handing him a food pack and bottled water. "I came to thank you. You saved my life." Ebuka hesitated, then accepted the food. It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same. No, she said firmly, her eyes glistening. No one else did. Only you. They talked for hours that day, about life, pain, dreams, and the cruelty of Lagos. Amarachi learned that Ebuka once had a family who died in a fire, leaving him scarred and alone. He learned that she hated the world of wealth she was trapped in, the cold marble halls, the fake smiles, and her father's obsession with power. Before she left, Amarachi pressed a folded note into his hand. "Buy yourself some food and medicine," she whispered. Ebuka opened it after she was gone, 20,000 Nigerian nairas. He stared at the money, then at the road where her car disappeared, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: hope. That night, as the city slept, Ebuka whispered her name like a prayer. He didn't know it yet, but Amarachi would return again, and with every visit, the distance between their worlds would begin to vanish. The visits became more frequent. Every weekend, Amarachi found herself drawn back to the same bridge, carrying food, medicine, and sometimes books for Ebuka. At first, he had resisted her generosity, but she insisted, reminding him that gratitude was not weakness. What began as kindness slowly turned into companionship. They would sit side by side on the dusty roadside, talking for hours as the world rushed past. To her, he was real, a man who listened without judging, who spoke truth without fear. To him, she was light, a woman who saw beyond scars and poverty. Ebuka's laughter, rare and rough, began to return. He started cleaning up, shaving his beard, and washing his clothes at the nearby public tap. The other beggars teased him, calling him Amarachi's husband, but he didn't mind. Deep down, he knew his heart had already chosen her, even if the world would never understand. One evening, as the city prepared for nightfall, Amarachi came in a hurry, her eyes glowing with excitement. "Ebuka, guess what?" she said, sitting beside him. "I told my father I want to start a charity for street children. I want to help people like you, people who deserve better." Ebuka smiled faintly. "That's good, Amarachi. You've always had a kind heart." She hesitated, looking at him. "But my father doesn't know that you're the one who inspired me." "Maybe it's better that way," he replied softly. "Men like Chief Okafor, they don't like stories that mix poverty with their daughters." Amarachi lowered her gaze, feeling the truth sting. Her father was a man who measured worth by wealth, not character. If he ever found out she spent her weekends with a beggar, there would be war in their home. Yet she couldn't stop herself from coming. The peace she felt with Ebuka was something money couldn't buy. That evening, as the sky turned dark and the last Danfo buses roared by, she did something neither of them expected. She reached out and held his hand. "Ebuka," she whispered, "promise me you won't ever disappear." His heart pounded. "I promise," he said, his voice trembling. They stayed like that for a while, her soft, manicured fingers wrapped around his scarred, calloused hand. For the first time, the gulf between the rich and the poor disappeared. But fate, cruel and unpredictable, was watching closely. Because soon, love would turn to danger. Weeks passed, and what began as secret friendship deepened into something neither Amarachi nor Ebuka could name. She continued to visit the bridge, sometimes under the disguise of charity work, other times simply to see him. Lagos became their silent witness. The streetlights, the sound of waves under the bridge, the hum of traffic, all keeping their secret. One night, rain began to fall heavily, drenching the city. Amarachi, instead of staying home, rushed to the bridge with an umbrella in hand. She found Ebuka shivering under a piece of nylon stretched between two poles. Without hesitation, she ran to him, her designer shoes splashing in muddy water. "You'll get sick here," she cried, kneeling beside him. He looked up at her in shock. "You shouldn't have come, Amarachi. This is no place for you." "And where else should I be?" she asked, tears mixing with the rain. "You saved my life, Ebuka. Why shouldn't I care about yours?" That night, Amarachi took him to a small guest house far from the city center, insisting he rest and recover. She paid for the room and food, refusing to leave his side until he slept. As he lay on the narrow bed, staring at her from across the room, something shifted inside him. A feeling too deep to name, too pure to hide. Days turned into weeks. Their meetings became more private, their conversations more tender. Sometimes she brought him clothes, sometimes she sat and listened as he read to her from his Bible. Love, quiet and forbidden, bloomed between them like a secret flower growing through concrete. But the world around them wasn't blind. One afternoon, Chief Nnamdi's driver spotted Amarachi's car parked near the old bridge. Suspicious, he followed her and saw her talking to a scarred beggar. He took pictures and reported everything to Chief Nnamdi. That evening, as Amarachi returned home, her father was waiting in the living room, his gold wristwatch glinting under the chandelier, his face thunderous. "Where have you been, Amarachi?" he asked coldly. "Out, helping someone," she stammered. He slammed his phone on the table, revealing the photos. "Helping or disgracing me?" Amarachi's heart froze. The world she had hidden so carefully was suddenly exposed. The man she loved was now a target, and the storm that had been waiting on the horizon was about to break. Chief Nnamdi Okafor's mansion in Banana Island had never known such fury. The air was thick with tension as Amarachi stood trembling before her father, her mother watching silently from the staircase. The pictures of her with Ebuka lay scattered on the glass table, the image of a billionaire's daughter holding hands with a street beggar. Chief Nnamdi's voice thundered through the hall. "Amarachi, have you lost your mind? A beggar? A disfigured man who lives under a bridge?" He slapped the table so hard that the framed family photo fell to the floor. "You have shamed me." Tears filled Amarachi's eyes. "He's not what you think, Papa. Ebuka is kind, brave. He saved my life." "Saved your life?" her father barked. "He's after your money, Amarachi. That's what men like him do. They beg, then they climb." Her mother, Mrs. Okafor, stepped forward gently. "Nnamdi, please calm down. She's young. Maybe this is just a mistake. Stay out of this." Chief Nnamdi roared. He turned back to Amarachi. "You will never see that boy again. I'll make sure he disappears from this city if he dares to come near you." Amarachi's heart raced in fear. "Papa, please, don't hurt him. If you do, I'll never forgive you," she cried, her voice breaking. But Chief Nnamdi wasn't listening. The next morning, 2 of his men went searching. Ebuka, unaware of the danger, was by the bridge feeding some street kids when a black SUV screeched to a stop. Before he could react, the men jumped out and dragged him inside. He struggled, shouting Amarachi's name, but his voice was drowned by the roar of the car speeding away. Hours later, he was dumped in an abandoned warehouse at the city's edge. One of the men, a muscular brute with tribal marks, sneered. "You think you can touch Chief Okafor's daughter and live?" He hit Ebuka across the face. "You'll leave Lagos, or we'll bury you where no one will find you." Blood dripped from Ebuka's lip, but he stared back defiantly. "You can beat me, but you can't stop what's already written." Meanwhile, Amarachi searched frantically, calling his number, visiting the bridge, but Ebuka was gone. When she confronted her father again, he coldly replied, "Forget him. He's beneath you." But deep inside, Amarachi knew she would never forget. She swore to find Ebuka, no matter the cost. Because what she didn't know yet was that she carried something precious inside her, a heartbeat, small and new, growing quietly beneath her heart. Days turned into weeks, and Amarachi's world slowly fell apart. She stopped eating, stopped attending events, and barely left her room. Her father thought she was being stubborn, but her mother noticed something different: the constant nausea, the fatigue, and the way Amarachi often held her stomach as if guarding a secret. One morning, Mrs. Okafor entered her daughter's room quietly and sat beside her. "Amara," she said softly, "tell me the truth. What's wrong?" Amarachi's lips trembled as tears filled her eyes. "Mama, I'm pregnant." For a long moment, silence hung between them. The ticking wall clock sounded louder than ever. Mrs. Okafor's hand flew to her mouth in shock. "Pregnant? By who, Amarachi?" She lowered her eyes. "Ebuka." Mrs. Okafor gasped and stood up, pacing the floor. "Oh my God! Your father will kill you, and that boy too if he ever finds out." She turned back to her daughter, panic in her eyes. "Does anyone else know?" Amarachi shook her head. "No one. I can't tell Papa, not yet." Her mother sighed deeply, torn between fear and love. "Listen to me, my child. You must be careful. Your father is not a man of mercy when he feels betrayed. For now, we'll keep this secret, but we must pray that the boy is alive." Meanwhile, in a distant part of Lagos, Ebuka was nursing his wounds in an abandoned church. A kind old pastor had found him and taken him in after discovering his battered body by the roadside. Though bruised, Ebuka's spirit remained unbroken. He thought about Amarachi every day, wondering if she was safe or if she had forgotten him. Then one evening, as he sat by the church door watching the sunset, he whispered to himself, "If love is true, it will find its way back." Back in Banana Island, Amarachi's secret grew harder to hide. Her loose dresses could no longer conceal her swelling belly. Her father noticed her change in appetite and pale face. "You look sick, Amarachi," he said one morning, suspicion rising in his tone. "Maybe I should call the family doctor." Amarachi froze. She knew one more visit to the doctor meant the truth would come out, and when it did, chaos would follow. The secret within her was no longer just hers. It was a living reminder of the man her father had sworn to destroy, the beggar who had stolen her heart. Amarachi's hands trembled as the family doctor closed his notebook after the examination. The air in her bedroom was heavy with silence, her mother standing by the window, refusing to meet her eyes. Chief Nnamdi paced impatiently, his gold wristwatch glinting as his temper simmered. "Well, doctor," he barked. The elderly man hesitated. "So, your daughter is pregnant." For a moment, Chief Nnamdi didn't move. The words seemed to hang in the air like smoke, impossible to believe. "Pregnant?" he repeated slowly, turning toward Amarachi. "Who?" His voice was dangerously calm. Amarachi's lips trembled. "Papa, please." "Who?" he roared, slamming his fist on the bedside table. Amarachi's mother stepped forward quickly. "Nnamdi, please, don't do this here." "Answer me, Amarachi," he demanded. "Which man dared to touch you?" Amarachi closed her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Ebuka." The room went dead silent. The sound of a distant generator hummed faintly outside, but inside, only the pounding of Chief Nnamdi's heart could be heard. His eyes widened in disbelief. "The beggar? That wretched thing you met under a bridge." "Papa, I love him," Amarachi cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't know him like I do." "Love?" he interrupted, his voice rising like thunder. "You call that love? He used you. He saw my wealth and decided to trap you with a child." "Stop it!" Amarachi screamed. "He never asked for anything from me. He only ever gave." Chief Nnamdi's fury turned cold. "That boy will pay for this," he muttered, storming out of the room. "If he's still in Lagos, I'll make sure he disappears for good this time." Amarachi collapsed to the floor, sobbing as her mother rushed to hold her. "Mama, please, don't let him hurt Ebuka," she pleaded. Mrs. Okafor held her tightly, whispering, "We'll find a way, my child. Somehow, God will protect him." That night, Chief Nnamdi called his trusted investigator, Mr. Ease, and ordered him to find the beggar immediately. What he didn't know was that the man he sought was already trying to rebuild his life. At the old church where Ebuka had taken refuge, the pastor noticed a stranger watching from outside. Something about the man's eyes made his heart skip. Trouble was coming, and with it, the truth that would shake the Okafor Empire to its foundation. The next morning in Banana Island, Chief Nnamdi sat in his study, his anger cold but focused. Files lay scattered on the mahogany desk as Mr. Ease, his private investigator, entered with a brown envelope. "Sir," he said, bowing slightly, "we found him." Chief Nnamdi's eyes narrowed. "Where?" "At an old church compound in Ebuka. He's been under the care of a pastor. But there's something you need to see first." Mr. Ease handed over a few documents, his tone cautious. Chief Nnamdi tore open the envelope and scanned the papers impatiently. His expression changed from fury to confusion as he reached the last page. "What is this?" "Sir," Ease said carefully, "when we dug into the beggar's background, we found an old hospital record. The boy's real name is Ebuka Chukwemeka Okafor, son of the late engineer Benjamin Okafor, your former business partner." Chief Nnamdi froze. His throat went dry as the name struck him like lightning. Benjamin Okafor, the man he had betrayed decades ago to seize full control of Okafor oil and gas. "That's impossible," he muttered, clutching the paper. "Benjamin's wife and son died in a fire 23 years ago." Ease nodded. "That's what everyone believed. But according to this, the boy survived. He was found unconscious near the burnt site and taken to an orphanage in Enugu. He left at 16 and somehow ended up on the streets." Chief Nnamdi slumped into his chair, his world spinning. The beggar he despised, the man he wanted dead, was the son of the friend he had wronged. And now, his daughter was carrying that man's child. Meanwhile, in the church at Ebuka was kneeling in prayer when the old pastor entered. "My son," the pastor said, holding a letter in trembling hands, "a man came by. He said your name used to be Ebuka Okafor. Do you remember that name?" Ebuka looked confused. "Okafor? That was my father's name before the fire." The pastor nodded slowly. "Then it's true. You are not just a beggar, Ebuka. You are the son of a man who built an empire stolen from him." Shock washed over Ebuka as fragments of memory returned. His father's laughter, the smell of engine oil, the night of the fire. "Chief Nnamdi," he whispered, realization dawning. "Yes," the pastor said softly. "The same man who destroyed your father is the father of the woman you love." Ebuka sank to his knees, tears mixing with disbelief. Love had brought him into Amarachi's life, but fate had bound them with bloodlines drenched in betrayal. And somewhere deep inside, he knew the truth would either heal everything or destroy them all. The night air in Lagos was thick with silence as Ebuka sat outside the church, his mind swirling with disbelief. The truth weighed heavily on him. He was the son of Benjamin Okafor, once co-owner of Okafor Oil and Gas, the empire now ruled by the man who had ruined his father. For years, he had begged for food while another man lived off his father's sweat. And now, destiny had done the unthinkable, made him fall in love with that man's daughter. The pastor came to sit beside him. "My son," he said gently, "you must forgive before you confront. Bitterness will not restore what was lost." Ebuka nodded slowly, though his heart burned. "I will not seek revenge, Pastor, but I will seek truth. Amarachi must know, and so must her father." Meanwhile, at the Okafor mansion, Amarachi's secret was no longer hidden. Her belly had begun to show, and her father's fury had turned to cold calculation. "We'll send her abroad," Chief Nnamdi told his wife that evening. "She will give birth quietly, and no one must ever know who the father is." But Amarachi overheard everything. Heartbroken and desperate, she slipped out of the house that same night, disguising herself in a shawl. She had one goal: to find Ebuka. After hours of searching through the dark streets, she found her way to Ebuka. The moment she saw him standing by the church gate, her tears broke free. "Ebuka!" she cried. He turned sharply, and when their eyes met, time seemed to stop. He ran to her, holding her tightly as if afraid she'd vanish. "Amarachi," he whispered, "you came." She touched his face, feeling the scars under her fingertips. They said you were dead. I thought I'd lost you forever." "I'm here," he said softly. "But there's something you must know." They sat beneath the church lantern as he told her everything about his father, the betrayal, the fire, and the shocking truth of who Chief Nnamdi really was. Amarachi listened in disbelief, her heart pounding. "So, my father destroyed your family?" she whispered. Ebuka nodded. "Yes. And now, fate has tied us together through love and blood." Amarachi wept silently, torn between love for Ebuka and loyalty to her father. "What do we do now?" she asked. Ebuka looked toward the distant skyline, his eyes burning with quiet determination. "We tell him the truth," he said. "And this time he will see me, not as a beggar, but as the son of the man he betrayed." The battle lines were drawn. By dawn, the poor beggar would no longer be just a man from the streets. He would stand as the rightful heir to a stolen legacy. The next morning dawned with a sense of destiny hanging in the air. Ebuka and Amarachi arrived at the Okafor mansion together, escorted by the old pastor who had become their quiet guardian. The security men tried to stop them, but Amarachi's voice rang out clear and fearless. "Tell my father his daughter is home, and she's not alone." When Chief Nnamdi appeared at the top of the marble staircase, his face hardened instantly. "You dare bring him here?" he thundered. Ebuka stood tall, dressed in clean clothes for the first time in years, his scars visible yet no longer shameful. "I didn't come here to fight, Chief," he said steadily. "I came for the truth." Chief Nnamdi scoffed. "Truth? You have no idea who you're talking to." "Oh, I do," Ebuka replied, pulling a folded document from his pocket. "I know you as the man who built his empire on my father's blood. I am Ebuka Chukwemeka Okafor, son of engineer Benjamin Okafor, your late business partner." The room fell silent. Mrs. Okafor gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Amarachi stepped closer to Ebuka, standing by his side. Chief Nnamdi's face went pale. "That's not possible," he stammered. The pastor stepped forward, handing over the old hospital and orphanage records. "It is true, Chief. The boy you thought dead survived. God kept him alive for this day." Chief Nnamdi stared at the papers with shaking hands. His voice dropped to a whisper. "But I never meant for Benjamin to die. The fire, it wasn't supposed to happen that way." "But it did," Ebuka said quietly. "And I paid for it with my life, until now." The tension broke when Amarachi's mother approached Ebuka with tears in her eyes. "You are your father's son indeed," she said softly. "And now you are family." Chief Nnamdi sank into his chair, guilt consuming him. After a long silence, he looked up. "You have every right to hate me. But if you'll accept it, the company, half of it, belongs to you by law and by blood." Ebuka took a deep breath, his eyes calm. "I don't want revenge, Chief. I only want peace, and a future for the woman I love and our child." For the first time, Chief Nnamdi's stern face softened. His gaze shifted to Amarachi's belly, and something inside him broke. He stood slowly and placed a trembling hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Then let the past die," he said. "Let us begin again." Months later, the newspapers carried the headline, "Street Beggar Discovered as Oil Tycoon's Lost Heir, Marries Billionaire's Daughter." But for Ebuka and Amarachi, it wasn't about headlines or wealth. It was about grace, the miracle that love could rise from ashes, that a scarred beggar could become an heir, and that forgiveness could build a future stronger than betrayal. Under the same bridge where their story began, Ebuka knelt and whispered a prayer of thanks, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. Beside him, Amarachi smiled, holding his hand. The world had once looked down on him, but now, the beggar had become a king. Please, kindly hit the subscribe button, like this video and share. This means a lot to us. Thank you for watching.